All right, guys, how's it going? Happy Friday here. Sam here with you on 25th, a little after 1 o'clock here. I'm going to make this relatively brief. Well, that's my intention anyway. I do say that a lot. Just a couple of things here. I wanted to share something with you that one of my, James M. on my team, our members will all know, he's one of my senseis here. It's just something he's been tracking, and interesting observation here as we try and wrestle the alligator that is this Bitcoin correction. I'm going to clean up a count. I made an error on a count here. I just want to clean that up on Wednesday's video here, but we'll take a look at that, and we'll dig a little bit deeper here on trying to find some resolution here to this, to a potential pivot here. Finally, I know, wouldn't want you to think I was making this video here just to remind you about our Black Friday sale. That would be very unlike me. But I'm just digest here. I'm over here on our Twitter page here. I just blew this up so you could look at it again. God, is there anybody not doing a Black Friday sale? But and we do this every year. This is about as deep a discount as we do. So if you're interested in our educational content, this is for the educational membership, right? Gets you access to all the upper belts, and it's essentially full access to everything that we offer. So 25% off of the monthly, 30 off of a 3-month, 35 off of a 6-month. And now you do have to use these discount codes exactly as written here. So all caps, Black Friday 25, Black Friday 30. Pretty self-explanatory. Most of you, I'm sure, are quite familiar with using discount codes. So we'll put that aside for now. So let me get back over here. This is where I wanted to start here. So again, this is something that Sensei James M. shared with me. He's kind of been all over this and tracking this, and it's really kind of an interesting observation here as we look at. Well, here I've got this is a weekly of the Brave New Coin Index, and we look at a long-term proposed count that per this count, it's 1 2 1 2 1 2. Right. So just saying it out loud. Right, if you understand a little bit about Elliott Wave, you know how extremely bullish that is. Now, we don't know for sure that's the count, but that's as currently labeled here. It's certainly a contender. It's a couple of interesting observations. Again, he brought this to my attention. So out here on the weekly, and we look at these corrections. Well, now we're tying these corrections to a couple of things. So one, we're looking at the RSI getting below 20 here out on the weekly. And you'll note here it's happened 3 times. Well, additionally, what's interesting about this is that those of you familiar with the 4-year cycle of Bitcoin here, so we put this low in here at 2015, 2019, we're a little early here. We're a little early for this to be our low, but there's this phenomenon that you can see reflected here in this is an Elliott Wave oscillator. It's just a 534 represented as a histogram. But you'll note here there's this pattern where we do 3 drives to get a new low, and we've done it consistently, but we've got a little monkey in the wrench down here. So here we can see we get the push, the second, the third, and that's our pivot as we put our low in here. RSI gets below 20, and up comes the next impulse. We get the same phenomenon here. We get 1 2 3, right? The peak being at the low where we get the RSI coming down. All right, gets below 20, and then we rip back higher. Now we keep this going. Now here's where we get a little break in this pattern. But is it a break in the pattern? Well, the question is, so we got a couple of issues here. One, we've had the extreme sell-off here with the RSI getting below 20 and then now coming back, right? This doesn't happen frequently, right? So we can look at that and say, oh, right, do we have a little hitch here? Right? So the kicker would be depending on how you're labeling it, right? If this is A, B, or WX, right, depending on how you're interpreting that, it's the push to the new high here that created the break of this steady pattern. So if it's 1 2 3, well, this would be lined up just as you might anticipate it, but we're making an assumption there. And then the other issue here is that we're a little early on the 4-year cycle, right? We'd want to be out here towards the end of 23 with all of this. Oh, yeah, that's probably in that ballpark if we're going to hold that 4-year flow. How are we going to do that? All right, and then so it makes you think, oh, wait a minute. Do I have this? Is this what I have to deal with? Well, that would imply that there's going to be a new low here in this oscillator, which would mean dramatically lower price. To cause that, for this to get to a new low, that's going to get ugly. Now, we don't know, right? And this is an observation, right? Not necessarily a forecast, but we're certainly coming into the range where we're trying to, well, obviously, right? We're looking, right? Any bull here is looking for signs of accumulation, some sort of a bottoming process. We've got a lot of things suggesting the alignment here is quite good with this pivot here. But well, first, obviously, I mean, we just look back historically. Sure, we'd like to see that RSI break that down sloping trend line. Then maybe, right, we allow for the new high, the swing here, right? It remains to be seen. Is it 4-5? Is it AB? Is it WX? Very hard to have any conviction into what we've got here until the market reveals a little bit more. So with that, this would be something to definitely keep an eye on. Certainly, the break of that trend line would be a positive. So let's look at that. Oh, let's see. Let's go over here, because this is, I think, what all of us are wrestling with. Now, I've switched over to BitGet, which is our trade. Well, of course, they sponsor the channel, so that, of course, I'm going to feature them. But here's on a daily. So on BitGet, I don't have enough history, but I've got the COVID low here. So the whole premise, the whole issue we're dealing with is, what is this? Is this a 1, or is this the 1? You can count it either way. Now, what I wrestle with here most is, well, first let's recognize the compromise that a purist is wrestling with here. So this would be per the James M's count here, which would try and get this into a 1, 2 at this degree. Well, here, let me see if I can put that together. In order to do that, we'd have to do this. So his view, and there are many that share this, is that no way, right? This is a 5, right? It's certainly at this distance, it sure looks like a 5. Now, can you wrestle it into a 3? Yeah, you can. There's a couple of different ways you could do it. You could do it right here. It's a bit of a force fit, but it's doable. It wouldn't be invalid. But does it have the right look? Definitely not. Doable. Now, the alternate here is we've looked at many more times than I'd like to remember, right? The alternate would be do it as a flat, right? So we'd have an A, expand the B, and then you can work that 5, but then that means you got to go into a W here. And then the expanded top here has to become an X, which is, you can get it, that done without a force fit, but that implies that we've got to do an ABC coming down. Well, so how could you do that? If you were thinking that, oh, WX, I'm going to get my A, B. Well, this is a count that, I've seen this. One of our, another Elliottian out there has posted this recently that James M shared with me. I want to give him, I've seen this count, but it came over. His name is, it's a Trading Hub, HUBB. He's a skilled Elliottian, and he had posted this, and James sent it over, and we looked at that and said, okay, candidate, right? So potentially you could do 1, 2, trying to get a 3, 4, 5 to finish it like that. So we'd have a massive extension in the 1, and then 3, 4, 5. So we'd get a diag here. So ultimately you could get to your, what do we got here, 11, 12K. You could get, and we'd be in that pocket that we're looking for the second, right? So this would be 1, and we'd be working through this whole WXY to get a 2 down here. Okay, well, so there's a couple of challenges with that. It does not appear that Bitcoin is going to give us anything that's going to, well, I shouldn't say that. All right, there's way too much that can still happen here. But do you see part of the problem you have here with this count here? Problem, maybe that's the wrong word here. For the technician and certainly for the pure Elliott Wave trader, well, what are we actually trying to complete down here? If it's a WXY and we're expanding the X, we're trying to complete. Because of the expanded X, we're trying to complete a sideways double, but it doesn't look very sideways, does it? Right? I mean, for a WXY to finish, this might have been, but if we're going down here, not very sideways looking, is it really? Right? I mean, the sideways you'd be maybe here, but this is really what you'd be looking for. You'd want it to be done here. Oh, WXY. Oh, I got a sideways double. Boom, off we go. Trend continues. Again, is that looking very sideways? Right. So then you might think, okay, well, if it's not that, because it's not sideways. Well, how else? Then you start working through, and we've been doing this for over a year. Okay, how else could we count it? What else could it be? Well, of course, then the next thought is that, oh, it's not WXY, it's ABC. Right? So then you'd be thinking, oh, because if it's going to be a B, I got to do this as a 3, so we got to do a 3, 3, 5. Okay, well, let's think about that for a second, because this is where we're all wrestling with the same thing. So if it's here, this would be the A, this would be the B. Now we right, obviously we changed the labeling here. I'll put this here. We'll go minuet here. Let's put it in green just to mix that up. Okay, so what would be the purest challenge with this? Well, if this is the 3 and this is a 3, and now we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, it's a tough finish, right? So you're trying to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're trying to do this exact same thing to come down here and finish that. 3, 3. Can you get that done as a 5? Well, we're kind of still running into the same problem here, because a 3, 3, 5 implies a flat. A flat, right? Does that look very flat? Right? A flat would suggest here. 3, 3, 5. Boom, off we go. Not very flat, is it? Right? I mean, I'm just observational, right? I'm taking out a log scale. Not very flat. Okay, right? So you're wrestling with that, going, okay, so I keep coming back to we're not going to have any clarity as to how to label this until we get a pivot down here, and assuming we get a pivot down here, and we get back on our way towards completing. We just swing, retrace. Right? That's the implication, not the certainty. The implication. So I keep looking at this, going, okay, what works the best here? And as far as I'm concerned, the whole challenge here, let's come back here, is that this ideally is the correction. I really am trying to avoid connecting these as part of the correction. This is the simplest, although it's gotten complex here in terms of how we're going to solve it. The simplest solution would be that we complete the impulse here, and that this is the correction. Now, that may not be what we get, but in terms of how do I simplify this? Can I simplify this? I'd rather put the 1 here, even though we've gone back and forth. I get it, right? We're all wrestling with this. I'd rather put it here so that this becomes the correction. This becomes the impulse. I think we're better to connect this as part of this impulse, which, God damn it, come here, which is already a bit of a problem, right? Already, is that my 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5? Right, the 2 is, I'm being generous with the 2 right there, right? Okay, but I think it's less of a compromise here to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 than to try and turn this into a flat with a massive C wave. Or WX, and now you're trying to finish this as an ABC with this. Again, it's not like it's never happened before. A very big extension in the 1, and we're trying to squeeze this thing in down here. That's a very real contender. Again, I just call it a bias. Call it a whole lot of years of looking at this. I want this to right. My view is that the higher odds probability, I'm going to say it that way, is that this completes with a new high. This is part of the correction. So if I bring this over here in Motive Wave here, where I can take advantage of their internal algorithm and their Elliott Wave engine trying to fix this. Let me take this to a 1 day. How could we do it? If we complete up here, well, I can get a zigzag in here without a force fit. Much less so, right? Then you could see the potential if you were trying to get this as a 1, 2, boy, the whole thing starts to get ugly if you're trying to finish this thing. But we need a rally here for this to play ball. So if this is the 1, right, we come back to, okay, 3, 4, 5, 5, 3, 5 into a W. I don't have a good X yet. Now, I haven't gone so far here to where I'd be out of bounds on this, on what essentially I'd be looking for, which is this. Right, so from the W, I'd go A. I'm going to have to expand the B here with this funky, there's the FTX waterfall into this B. But now as we hold here, if we start to come back this way, I'm more inclined to think that we're putting in the X here, this being a W, working on the X, and then we have to come down for the Y here. Oh, pardon me, let's do it this way. So we'd be coming down for the Y here. Well, now we're coming down towards golden zone here, and we're in that 10 to 12K range. Now, is that ideal? Well, I don't think there's going to be an ideal solution here, because the first zigzag will end up being, right, well, let's hope. Oh, shit, come back here. The first zigzag would be much smaller than the second one. Again, it's not like we've never seen it. But if this is going to go here, you'd be anticipating. Now here I'm going out here middle of 23, so we're outside of we're well into the fourth year from the 2019 low. Here's January, right? So it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So already we're pushing outside of that. WX, and this is a projection without the C of the X. Oh, is that what we're going to get? It seems to be. I suppose the alternate here, we could do it the same way. So rather than we could just do this as completing the zigzag here, but it gets, it's probably easier to do it over here. If we're going to try and complete the zigzag here and go A, B, and then we're going to finish the C here, this is probably just as reasonable. Pardon me, trying to talk too fast. If that's the one and we're working on the two, all right, I got to get an A, B, C in here. So this would be the ideal. Jesus, come here. Can I get an A, a B? Now this would have to be the 1, 2. We're working on the 3, 4, 5. So that same idea can get us done here, and we'd still have the potential of this being the 1 and then this being the correction. All of that's still yet to come. So this is the correction. So this is the other way to do it, right? Where we don't need the kick in the X. We don't need this, right? Which we would need for that X to do it. And then both of them seem to be implying about the same range down here, which is this 10 to 12K range. So where's the 1, right? Here or here? I'll take you back here. Right, it seems too soon, but if we're in that range here and we're going to push this over to, where's 23 right there? Now we're kind of in that pocket here, and we stay consistent with that 4-year window. This question mark, is this a pattern break? Is it going to be some sort of divergence down here? Right, but do you see the pattern would be breaking here, because the 3, right, the pivot, when we get below the 20, that's been the pivot low. So that's the conundrum. Which one have we got here? Well, I know nothing bullish is happening until we get on the other side of that trend line. The RSI starts to move higher. Obviously, next thing we got to break 50 before this starts to become a real potential for 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, let me quickly. God, I'm taking too long here. Let me come back here, because this is the mistake I made on Wednesday. Given PKS Avenda just huge props for the great work he did, and then I fucked up his labeling. I was looking at it. Well, he gave me an image, and I wanted a chart I could work with so I could open it up and show it to you guys, and in that process, somehow, I don't know, it's just I was already thinking about Thanksgiving. I did this as a 5. What the hell? All right, it's an X. Y, obviously, it's got to be a 3. My brain was on vacation early. So just to correct that, right, that was entirely my doing, not PKS Avenda, who gave me a perfect count. Right, this is a very skilled count. Now, since yesterday we had another little kicker on this, we thought maybe the 3 was here, which is still, there's not a great finish here. But I think you'd be inclined to, you'd be inclined to just, okay, well, there's some sort of a pivot here. 2 standard deviations on either side. Boy, I'm self-contained. Boy, it's tough to, the finish there is ugly for the Elliottician. Does this look like the 2? Well, we came right to the demand zone. And then you look and say, wait a minute, you just were showing me out on the daily. How the hell is all this going to fit? Well, right? So a couple of different ways. As we looked at the extension here, oh God, this could be a couple of different ways. But so one thought is, if we're going to get that X, we could have A, B, C, all right? Then come down lower again. Oh, this is such an ugly, try and finish this here. Oh God, I don't know how this will be a real challenge. If this is going to be our pivot low, if did I say if that's going to be our pivot low, which I think, well, I can't see a solution there. But if this were going to be our pivot low and we were going to come out of here, what are we finishing? If we get an impulse here, all right, what is it? Is that a 1 and we're coming off the low and the low's in? I can't say I'd be disappointed. I'd be racking my brains for how to solve that as the low. I mean, you just look at it, right? Elliott aside, does that look like accumulation? Well, it could be, certainly. Right? Problem with some of that is accumulation can look a whole lot like distribution, right? Is it down? Sell it to the weak hands and then drive it down again. The wild card here is because we're weak, we're vulnerable. So we being bulls, how about I say it that way? That if a whale wants to dump some size on us, that's not going to be absorbed, I think, easily. Right? That'll likely drive the prices down. And then we're looking at, what are we at now? 16 and change, 10, 12 in that range. If there's a whale dump here, seems well within the realm of possibility, if you will. All right, so 21. Okay, I was hoping to make this briefer. What have we got here? I mean, this is probably the cleanest. If we're going to put the 1 here, we're going to go A, B, and try and squeeze this into a finish here with the extension in the 1. That's probably, when in doubt, can we simplify? If we can, what would we want here? What would be the simplest solution? Swing, retrace, golden zone, off we go. That would be the simplest. Are we going to get the simplest? Well, it's not Bitcoin's history. But if we step back and you look at it, interesting how the geometry is playing here. I mean, you're right. That's a pretty solid trend line. And then look at the center line. And then look here. All we've done is just double the channel. And look at that center line. Does it look like it's done there? Well, I mean, there's a lot going on here that, maybe you don't spot at first glance. But here, just this. Now, we're through it, right? We're through it. But certainly we're in a zone here where you might anticipate the support. Anticipate doesn't mean we found it. It just means we certainly it's an area of interest. How about we say it that way? Finish this at the end of 23, right on the 4-year cycle. Off we go. That'll be a hell of a New Year's present for all of us that are bulls. Okay, guys, that's all I got for today. Just a reminder. Well, you probably won't see that again for a while at those prices. So if you're interested, good time to take advantage of it. Okay, guys, have yourselves a good weekend. I'll be back on Monday, and we'll take it from there. Okay, guys, have a good one.